Okay, so since much of our Buddhist practice relies on visualization, I wanted to talk about that a little bit today. And first of all, the word visualization is quite misleading and not a good translation for what we're actually doing, because what we're doing is working with our imagination. And visualization implies that we're working with a visual image and then using our eyes. So we're working with our imagination. And not only are we working with imagined sights, but we're working with imagined touch and smells and sounds, physical sensations, feelings. So it's quite more involved than just imagined sight. So we use our imagination to, in a very practical manner, to develop our potential that we all have to transform ourselves. So it's quite an important piece of our practice. And the way that I think about it, and the way that we've been taught by Venerable children, is that it's a very creative process. And of course, imagination is creative, so it makes sense. And we all have the ability to use our imagination. So for example, if I say to imagine the face of your mother or your best friend in your mind right now, an image will arise. And using imagination is very, very powerful, much more powerful, I think, than we realize. So I'm going to take us through a very brief visualization so that I can illustrate the power of imagination. So close your eyes and imagine in front of you a table, and on it is a cutting board, and on the cutting board is a lemon, a very yellow, juicy lemon. And so imagine that there's a knife also at the table, right next to the cutting board. And so with one of your hands, take hold of the lemon, and you can feel the texture of the skin. It feels quite oily. And then pick the knife up and cut into the lemon, cut it into 4 sections. And as you cut into the lemon, juice squirts out all over. And now set the knife down and then pick up one of the sections of lemon and bring it up to your face. And you can smell the lemon. Now open your mouth and take a big bite. Now our imagination can become so real that the body prepares the mouth for tartness by producing saliva so that it can dilute the sourness. So maybe some of you had that experience. If not, at least a kind of a puckering, yeah? And then there's some feelings involved. If you don't like sour, then maybe a little aversion. If you like sour a lot, maybe, some attraction to it. So we can see how the body reacts to what we put in the mind, what the images are. Very powerful. And this is with something that we have really no interest in and doesn't have much value really in our lives, just an image. So if you think now, over time, putting the image of the Buddha in the mind, a being that has developed all of their potential to its fullest, none of the disturbing attitudes, no anger left, no attachment, none of those negativities, all gone. And if we think about bringing to mind again and again the image of the Buddha and keeping in mind what they represent, we can see how this is a very, very powerful practice. It will transform our minds. So when I think about imagining white Tara, when we do our practice, I think of a hologram. That's what helps my mind. Every mind is different, but for me that's a very helpful image, a hologram, because it's alive and it's vibrant and it's made of light. So the first thing we do when we're going to start a practice, especially if it's new for us, we have to get familiar with the Buddha figure to begin with. So we use an illustration or maybe a tanka or the description in the practice of what white Tara looks like. So we have to get familiar with that before it can come to our mind. So we have to study it some. And then once we do that, then we just kind of gently think of it and think of the points of it, all the parts of it, and let it arise in the mind. Now if we push, it's not going to come. So this isn't something to really push hard at. It's just to allow it to arise in whatever form it arises, and then just be satisfied with that. And every meditation session it's different, at least it is for me. Sometimes it's very clear, other times it's not clear at all, and you know, that has a lot to do with the state of my mind, certainly. They also say that if we imagine a small image, that it's easier to get the details, easier for it to get clear. So we just practice and we just allow whatever arises and make that good enough. The most important piece of this is to really feel that white Tara is actually in front of you. That this being that has perfected all qualities is in front of you. So not only are we training our ability to imagine and imagine white Tara, we're also training our ability to imagine what it would be like to have all the qualities of the Buddha. So I invite you to get really creative with your visualization and playful with it, and enjoy.